part 2 of Lag BaOmer. We're understanding about why this crazy pilgrimage to the north. That's what we're doing. What is so special about this day, and why does it draw so many people? So yesterday we had finished getting out of the cave. They came out of the cave for the final time. And afterwards, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai wrote down the Zohar because of the Roman persecution. The Jews were getting thrashed by the Romans. We no longer had the regular oral tradition clear. And for that reason, they wrote down the Mishnah, so everyone would know the laws, and they wrote down and Rabbi Shimon wrote down the Zohar, so that we would know the Kabbalah. The Mishnah is written, the laws of Israel are written tersely, so that it requires oral discussion to understand it, whereas the Zohar is written cryptically. It's encrypted in Aramaic and is set up specifically to be unintelligible to laymen and only intelligible to great scholars. And the reason is because inside the Kabbalah are various dangerous aspects to it. The 3 aspects of study of Kabbalah. A new pen. 3 aspects. The one is the study of Kabbalah. Number 2 is the meditative aspects. And number 3 is matter manipulation. Matter manipulation means you can actually change matter with names of God and stuff, and included in the Kabbalah is that you would learn how to manipulate matter. In the study of Kabbalah, there's 3 major subjects. A is the study of the whys, okay, why we do what we do. B is the study of creation, and that's all basically metaphysics, how God created the world. And then the third is running creation, is how God actually sustains the creation, the running of the creation. For those who know Hebrew, this is called Tamei Torah or Tamei Mitzvahs, the reasons behind everything we do. Creation is Maaseh Bereshit, and the running of creation is called Maaseh Merkava, which is all hinted at in one short chapter. The very first chapter of Ezekiel, where there is a chariot described by Ezekiel, Yechezkel, and hidden inside that story about Ezekiel having this vision of a chariot is all the secrets of how God actually runs the creation. Anyway, meditative Kabbalah has to do with using names of God and traveling into the realms of the metaphysical world. There's a whole world on the other side of this world, and you can actually travel in that world. And people who know the Kabbalah deeply can travel. You know, they got a special ticket to travel in that dimension. And yes, Arya?
Did they use ships? Like literally? Some people talking about that.
Arya, that's a pretty out there question. I've never heard of anyone using ships. I think it's usually they sit in sets of 3s, sometimes 4s, 2s or 1s. Small groups. Yeah, and they just travel.
Isn't that physics also?
To go on ships?
No, it's transcend space.
No, not at all. It's hard for your conscious mind to do that, but in the right meditative state. Yeah. You can move through things. You know, it's remote viewing. The U.S. government had a unit that was only remote viewers. So if you were working in the service and you suddenly had a freaky, you know, out-of-body remote experience, and you went and told your captain, which is a big mistake. If you ever have that as a soldier, do not tell anyone that you had that. But if you do, you get marked and get taken for the remote viewers. And there's a whole unit in the U.S. Army just for viewing enemies, right from the privacy of, you know, their headquarters in the U.S. They listen in, they hear, they do all kinds of things. Remote viewers, what? Check it out. There's one of them got out. One of them got out. He almost got killed. I think his house was burned down. He was being chased down, and because he broke out of that unit. And I think it's in a book called Stargate, if I'm not mistaken. There's a book called Stargate. It's an amazing read. I mean, it's just, you go through the whole, you know, because now he's a fugitive because he wanted his freedom back.
What are those boards where you can speak to like deaf people?
Oh, yeah.
Do we subscribe?
Those are a little popular in England more than other places.
Do we subscribe to that?
We subscribe to not doing it.
Oh,
Did you do it?
It's possible to do it.
Did you do it?
Have I done it? No, I don't believe that.
And you never did it?
Never done it.
Don't do it.
But it can be done.
It can be done with, he's talking about, what are they called? Wedgie boards?
Yeah.
Ouija boards. Ouija boards. Ouija boards, yeah.
Never done it.
Never do it.
Very good.
I never believed in myself until I started helping people who had. And I was unable to help them. I had to pass them off to much bigger Kabbalists than I were to try to clean them up. Never use a Ouija board. If you know anyone who's using, get them out of it. And I tell you, I always thought it was a joke until I dealt with people who all they did was fool around with a Ouija. They fooled around with a Ouija board with like friends, and usually in England actually, which is interesting. They'd fooled around with it. And now they're dealing with like serious, like, almost like something else has come on board.
So it does time.
Very much so. Very dangerous. Yeah. But that's the dark side.
Can it be used?
That's the dark side.
Can it be used productive?
I don't think so. Not that. Anyway, we have our own Kabbalistic ways of traveling. And they have their ways. And their ways are not healthy, especially for a Jew. I've had South Africans whose parents had left them alone. South Africans whose parents left them with, you know, the housekeeper, you know, forgiveness or whatever, grace, or all the names. Their housekeepers are named like forgiveness and destiny, and I'm sorry, and you know, they have all these really great names. The housekeepers, but they're part of the family. They take care of the kids. Sometimes they put their kids through, meaning the Jewish family will put their kids through college and stuff. They grew up there. The housekeeper's kids grew up there. Anyway, we've had several situations over the years of someone who, when we could not help them after a while, they did the research and they found out their parents went on vacations and left them with the voodoo housekeeper, who they all loved, but the housekeeper took them to the territories, into the villages, and let the you know, the medicine chiefs or whomever do their things there on this Jewish, you know, little girl. Yeah, crazy. And here we're dealing with like adults doing, you know, adult women coming in for help here to try to get to Kabbalists to help them. Not so simple. Just thinking about this one had it really tough. I don't know what happened to her. I wonder. Anyway, so that's the idea. Now, everything you see on the board right here, which all sounds really amazing, right? This is like the deepest stuff, and really the deepest stuff in the world. Way beyond even stuff you'd find in India or any of these places. This is like, because this is very exacting. Theirs is also very exacting, but this is coming from purity and Torah and tradition of thousands of years. This is straight from Sinai. And it's Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is the one who encrypted it into this written work in order to preserve it for all generations. He preserved it for all generations. He was also a very great leader. He was also one of the most mentioned sages of the Mishnah in just regular law. When you're learning regular law, seeing the words Rabbi Shimon Omer, which does not mean we're now playing Simon Says. Okay? Rabbi Shimon Omer, whenever it says that, it is referring to him. So he's throughout the Mishnah in just regular Jewish law.
There's a double act of Rav and Shimon.
Sorry?
In the Gemara, there's often arguments between a bloke called Rav and a guy called Shimon.
Yeah.
Was Shimon a rabbi?
Anytime it says Shimon, it's Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai.
No, but it doesn't call him Rav Shimon. The arguments
Oh,
between the guy called Rav.
I think in the Gemara, in the Mishnah, I think it always says Rebbe, doesn't it? Rebbe Shimon. It's always Rebbe Shimon. They don't drop the Rebbe when it comes to Shimon.
So this is someone else.
What?
No, this guy's name is just Shimon. Shmuel.
Oh, you're thinking Shmuel. Shmuel and Rav.
Yeah.
They were Baal
Yeah, was
Pluktas.
Shmuel a rabbi?
Yeah, are you kidding?
Why doesn't he called Rav Shimon?
They didn't. A lot of them were nicknamed. A lot of these names were nicknames. Rav's name wasn't Rav. We'll name him Rav. His name wasn't Rav. Rava wasn't Rava. Rabba wasn't. His real name was not Rabba. Papa's name wasn't Papa. No one names their kid Papa.
I thought
Shmuel is probably his real name,
yeah.
but may not even been.
How do you know he was?
They were all nicknames. They are the rabbis. The question is, are we rabbis? Another question, anyone you see popping up in a Mishnah or Gemara is like, oh my gosh, the lowest of them, if they walked in this room right now, all of your hair would stand up, literally, all of your hair would stand up, and then you'd fall on your face shaking in front of them. The lowest of all of them would literally make you spontaneously combust. I used to hear that, and I never believed it true. But one day, it happened to me. I was walking with two of the most sagely Jerusalemites, in the gold robes and stuff, and their white beards, and their eyes are on fire. And they're not alive anymore. They passed away 15 years ago. But I was walking with them, and I was helping them a bit. They're very elderly, and we make our way into the tomb of Rabbi Meir at Tiberias. In the tomb, now it's packed with people, and everyone's facing another direction, and we walk in there, and all of a sudden the whole place goes electric. We're standing up on these stairs. You walk down these stairs into it. We're up on these stairs. The whole place goes electric. Everyone in the room does a U-turn, faces these two. I'm standing in the middle, just going whoa, and every single person in the place falls on their face in front of them. Every single person spontaneously fell on their face in front of these two people. Whoa, what is that? And these are our contemporaries. I mean, they're not anymore because they passed away a while ago. One was Rav Shlomo Zalman Briesel, and the other was his brother. I forget his name. Pinchas. I think it was Rabbi Pinchas. Pinchas Briesel. These guys were if you ever heard me talk about Reb Shlomo Zalman, that he used to take books like Path of the Just at 85 years old, he walked by our table and he said, it's gonna be a new Zalman. Can you imagine, 85 years old, it's gonna be a new Zalman. He'd recreate himself. That was him, yeah. So when people told me that if the Rambam walked in the room, you'd fall on your face, literally go convulsively, freaking out, I used to always hear that as yeah, meaning they're important, but no one's falling on their face. No, you literally will fall on your face. I watched it, and then these people are no Rambams, and they're certainly not Shmuel from the Gemara. Yeah, these people were Gedolei Olam, the greats of the planet. Yeah, really, really huge, and had the wisdom of all of Torah and much, much more. of the whole planet. Okay. Anyway, but I'd like to show you a little further how we know. Would it be interesting to you guys to know how we know that Kabbalah is real and not just some like made-up mysticism? Is that interesting to anyone? Raise your hand if you'd like to know. How do we know that? Whoa, it's unanimous, except for this guy. But it's all right. We can do something else. What would you like to do? Just kidding. I'm kidding. Okay. So the way we know it's real is one part I can't go through. This is your own problem. You're going to have to, I don't know, do the discovery seminar or go do your own proving of the Torah. But the first part is that Mount Sinai, where we got the Torah. I don't know what to do. There's Sinai. Okay, that's Mount Sinai. You hear the tablets? They were actually rectangular. That's Mount Sinai. And Mount Sinai, we got... Okay, we got the written Torah. Does that look like a written Torah? I'm going visual with you guys. Okay? Yeah, Ashkenazi too, yes. So that's the written Torah, okay? And now, if you can prove that the written Torah is divine beyond a shadow of a doubt, which you had better, because otherwise you'd have to be literally out of your mind to start strapping leather boxes all over your body and stuff like that. And not to mention, like, completely cutting out of all reality once a week for a 24-hour low-tech lockdown, you know, at the threat of anything other than death. I mean, someone would have to die for you to be, like, getting in a car. Yeah, which means, like, totally many people having to reform what their career is going to be, because not everyone's willing to have you in the winter leave work at 4 so you can race home. You know, it just goes on and on. Every single commandment you will find is beautiful, gorgeous, spiritual, and extremely inconvenient. Commandments are extremely inconvenient. Some of them are really expensive. You know, I buy like a lemon in a fancy suit. Every suit coat costs a lot of loot. That lemon in a fancy suit, and it's like $100 for that thing. How much is that going to be worth 1 week from now? You can't give it away. Who wants it? You know? Oh, I really needed it though, because I must shake it with some other cosmic vegetation. You know, try not to poke somebody with it, you know, with your little Jewish Star Wars lightsaber, you know. You know, and I have to move out of my house for a week. I'll be in a thatch hut just down the road here. That's extremely inconvenient to suddenly move out of your home for a week. It's a lot of fun, but oh my gosh. Man, you know how many times I've been in the hospital for building my sukkah? There's a rule now when we build my sukkah is I'm not allowed to touch anything. I just seem to start bleeding as soon as I do. I'm good at teaching classes, but not construction work. And I have my sukkah is freestanding, seats 70 people for a catered meal. Anyone been to my sukkah for sukkah's meals? You've been to my sukkah. You ever been to my sukkah? You never went to my sukkah.
Do you sleep in there?
Of course, yeah. We have a whole bedroom area in the sukkah. It sleeps like 10. Yeah. But that's the women's section. We have a women's sukkah and a men's sukkah. They're connected, and with a sheer awning, so you can watch the men if that's your thing. Is that your thing? Watch the men. What?
Both ways?
One way. One way. So. Anyway, I remember this. We were going like heavy that night, and the music full sound, so the music's cranking, and the strobe light, and you know, the fog machine, you know, and it's going, you know, really going off, and I just had to take a break. So I go into the women's sukkah just to take a break. There were no women there. They were having their own dance party in a hall next to our house. My wife had taken all the women for their own dance party. Now they don't dance in the sukkah, but there were way more women than could dance in there. So I go in there for a break, and I find 50 Tel Aviv girls inside the sukkah, and they all look really angry. And I'm like, happy sukkahs, everybody. And they're just like, I'm like, what is wrong over here? And they're like, we want to be in there with all the men. And they don't even know I'm the host. You know, I'm like, so sorry. You know, you're not going in there. You know, there's no way you're going in there. So, and 50 secular Tel Aviv girls, I guess, heard like dance music, and they were like, they wanted in, and they got directed to the women's sukkah. So, anyway, so what I told them was, please raise your hand if you've been to a wedding in the last year. And no one raised their hand of 50 girls. So I said, please raise your hand if you've been to a wedding. You know, they're like 18, 19, 20. Raise your hand if you've been to a wedding the last 2 years. And then like 4 of them raised their hand. So I said, over in Tel Aviv, everything's very mixed. And there's no weddings. Over here in Jerusalem, everything's very separate. But we go to like 4 weddings a week. Not 4 of us going to a wedding in the last 2 years. It's 4 weddings a week. 5. I can have 4 weddings a night. So you think you're going to get married more likely because you're around all these men all the time. But you don't realize the more you're with men, the more you're putting off your chances of getting married. Because there's some kind of counterintuitive thing going on here that the more you stay away, the more likelihood you will build a Jewish home with a man. Marry someone. It's weird. Doesn't make a lot of sense. That's just the facts. Anyway, they like that. And I told them they're not going in. I bless them in the merit of them not going in. They're going to get married. Okay, so there's the written Torah. It is an incontrovertible fact that a human being couldn't have written this thing. I'm not going into the detail of how we know that, but it's an incontrovertible fact that this was not written by human beings. There is no man on the planet who could have ever written this book. Okay? Fact. Any other tradition you'll ever find, a man is considered to have written it. Okay? This is not a man-written book. Nor is there a doubt that maybe it's a man-written book. It is not written by men. There are things in that book that Moses could never, ever, 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 ever have known unless he was, you would say he was a prophet, which we do, unless you say he was a prophet. But still, even as a prophet, there were zoological facts in there that a prophet's going to know to write things about zoology that would only be discovered 3,300 years later. Facts that could delegitimize, like one little line that could delegitimize the entire divinity of the book. Going out on a limb like that, you'll notice anyone who writes a tradition for people to follow, they remove all delegitimizing possibilities. Whereas the Torah just puts them all in there. You know, sabbatical years with a triple crop every 6th year. Who in the world can promise a triple crop? Anytime. But every 6th year, you're going to get a triple crop? Who can say such thing? Anyway, it goes on and on. I'm not going there beyond that. Given that the written Torah is incontrovertibly divine, and it makes it very clear, even to the threat of death, that it wants us to follow commandments, which lists all the way to the number 613 commandments. You ready for this? But it does not tell us how to do any of those commandments. None. No instructions. I mean, some are like literally no instructions. Like, for example, it tells you must slaughter the animal. Like, if you want meat, you must slaughter the animal. And the Torah says, according to my instructions. Yeah, so you imagine you're like really hungry. You got, I don't know what you're going to kill the cow. You got cow, you know, Bessie, hold still there. And, you know, you read the Torah. It says, according to my instructions. Okay, hold still there. We're going to find the instructions. Flipping through the pages. Flip through the page. Flip through the page. Get that. No instructions. I can eat this cow according to the instructions that don't exist. And the answer is, there are instructions, but those instructions are listed in the oral law. Okay? Okay, those are listed. Oh, is his head uncovered? Anyway, the oral tradition goes into amazing detail on how to slaughter an animal properly. And if you miss even one of those details, imagine it's your wedding and your parents invited like everybody. Would your parents invite everybody? Everybody. And they got like the chief rabbi in there, and they got this rabbi and that rabbi, and like all these. It's very important, and all the like the fanciest people, all the way down to like cab drivers. And 500 people are waiting for the main course. When this little old man walks into the kitchen of the wedding, they got all the food already on the plates. And this little old man in a bloody apron walks into the kitchen and says, we have a problem here. I just looked at the knife that I slaughtered that cow with, and it's got a little nick in it. And you're running the wedding, so you're like, give me that knife. There's no nick in that knife. Get out of here. And he says, no, there is a nick in that knife. I'll show you the nick in the knife. And he pulls out a flashlight that burns 1,000 lumens with a magnifying glass. And he shows you, there's a nick in this knife, which means that cow felt some pain. Main course isn't kosher. And then you're like, well, I mean, obviously, what? What are you talking about? Everyone's waiting for the main course. So what you do is you tie him up, and you put him in a closet with a stocking down his throat. Yeah. So you look over at all the plates, at least get the meat off the plates, right? Too late. The gravy is now totally infiltrated other territory on the plate. Not only that, the plates are no good. They're gonna have all those plates have hot trafe on them. So now all those porcelain plates, might as well donate them to the Salvation Army. No Jew's gonna be eating off those plates. 500 plates, gone. Yeah. No one's eating tonight. We take this stuff seriously. And the Torah says nada con nada. I'm so afraid to hear what you're going to say. Yeah, what do you want?
The difficulty is that like 100 years ago, that instrument that he used to find the nick in the knife wouldn't have existed.
I was totally, I knew you were going to say something about that. I was making that stuff up. The 1,000 lumen flashlight with the magnifying glass. Chances are the real law is with the naked eye.
Right.
It's not with magnifying glasses and that kind of thing. Even the law with bugs, we're very careful not to eat bugs, but you don't have to use a microscope on your lettuce. You might starve while doing it. You don't have to do that. It just has to be thoroughly checked. Yeah. Every single commandment's like that. There is nothing telling me in the Torah 5 knots. Every knot has a certain amount of strings. That's 13 right there. That one. That's much less, obviously. 5 knots, 8 strings, 4-corner garment. Where does it say any of this? And the answer is nowhere. It's the oral law. Black boxes. You know how much my black boxes were? I mean, you could get them subsidized at H for like $250. But mine, just the parshas, the Torah parshas, written parshas that are in my boxes, just the parshas were worth $1,250 before we even got to boxes.
What made you say?
I took out the best sofer in Israel to write them for me. I first had my Aish pair, which were not the 250s. They were also nice, but then I really went for the Cadillac, the full on. There's a reason I did that. There's nothing wrong with the first pair. In fact, I still wear them once in a while. And knowing me, I'll probably bring that first pair, my first Aish pair, I'll bring them to Lag BaOmer, just in case, God forbid, anything would happen to my, $2,000 pair. The reason I did it was because I put on tefillin for the wrong reason. Every mitzvah I took on, I did it slowly and for the right reason, but I blew it. I put on tefillin because my roommates were. Is that why we're supposed to do mitzvahs? Because our roommates are doing it? And that mitzvah, therefore, was what's called DOA. You know what DOA stands for? Dead on arrival. My commandment of tefillin was DOA, dead on arrival. And for years and years and years and years, even as a rabbi, I was still putting on that pair of tefillin, and I never, ever experienced the mitzvah because I was doing it for the wrong reason. And I decided I'm going to reclaim the mitzvah. I'm going to resuscitate this dead commandment for myself. And one of the ways I did that was by sitting on the side of the sofer who wrote them. I sat next, I found the best one. I traveled to South Africa for a week just to pay for them. You know, meaning I was paid for a week of teaching. And then I sat next to the sofer and watched him write them, with him having me in mind, teaching me all about them. I went from Rebbe to learn about them. I studied books on them. I didn't let, they get checked by computer, so they're perfect, no typos. I took it to the computer guy. I picked him up from the computer, I brought him back. You know, I was there for every step of the process because I wanted to resuscitate this, such an important commandment. It was making me crazy. It was also affecting my digestion because when I was young, my need to fit in was very strong. And my fear of rejection from people was always locked in with my digestion. Whenever I felt nervous, you know, like a social event or a wedding reception, anything like that, or public speaking, my digestion would always shut down. And so, amazingly, whenever I'd touch my tefillin, I would have a digestive problem, which is not good with tefillin, because you're not allowed to wear your tefillin if you're having a digestive problem. So I had to totally reclaim this commandment completely. Isn't that weird? It's crazy, right? Anyway, slowly, slowly. All I can tell you all is when you're taking on commandments, do it right. Do it slow. Slow and sure. Yeah. With that, guys, I'm teaching another class next door. So, shalom, everybody. Tomorrow's the trip.